3 Thanksgivings in a row, they forgot I existed. Not dramatically, just quietly. Conveniently forgetting to call when the family gathered. My mother, my sister Diane, my brother-in-law Frank, all of them carving turkey and passing sides while I sat alone with a microwave dinner. I found out through Facebook photos each time. There they were, smiling around a table loaded with food I'd never taste in a house I'd never enter. The gut punch of it never got easier. Year 1, I made excuses for them. Year 2, I questioned myself. Year 3, I accepted the truth. They'd erased me. The people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had decided I was disposable. The rage came first, then the hurt, then something colder, sharper, clarity. What they didn't know was that while they were pretending I didn't exist, I'd won $47 million in the Oregon lottery, and I'd kept it secret. When Diane and Frank finally discovered my win and showed up demanding their share, I unleashed something they never saw coming. My name is Charlie Whitaker, and I'm 42 years old. This is for anyone who's been used and discarded by the people who should have protected you. Sometimes the best revenge isn't cruelty. It's refusing to be their safety net when they're drowning in consequences of their own making. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. Year 3, I didn't even pretend to hope. November rolled around and I knew what was coming. Nothing. No call, no text, no last-minute excuse, just silence. Thick and familiar as fog off the Willamette. I spent that third Thanksgiving alone in my apartment, rotisserie chicken from the grocery store on a paper plate, football game on mute while I scrolled through Facebook. And there they were. Diane had posted the photos an hour earlier, my mother at the head of the table, Frank carving a massive turkey, Diane's 2 kids wearing construction paper pilgrim hats. The dining room looked like something from a magazine. Fall centerpiece, cloth napkins, wine glasses catching the light. The caption read, "Grateful for family traditions, blessed beyond measure." I stared at that phrase, blessed beyond measure. She tagged my mother and Frank, not me, never me. The first year, I'd made excuses for them. My mother had called 2 days before Thanksgiving that year, her voice apologetic but firm. "Charlie, honey, we're keeping it small this year, just immediate family. You understand." I didn't understand. I was immediate family. But I'd said, okay. Spent the day alone, told myself maybe next year would be different. Year 2, no call came at all. I found out through Diane's Facebook post. Same table, same people, different centerpiece. I texted my mother immediately. "Didn't realize Thanksgiving was happening. Everything okay?" She'd responded 8 hours later. "Oh, sweetie, I thought Diane had told you we were doing something intimate." Intimate? Like I was some distant cousin they'd outgrown? I'd been the dependable one for 20 years, ever since Dad died when I was 19. Systems analyst at a mid-sized tech firm in Portland. Nothing glamorous, but steady. I was the one who showed up when Mom needed help with the house, who loaned Diane 15 grand for her first down payment, who invested 20,000 in Frank's real estate startup. I'd been there, always. The trouble started when I questioned Frank's business practices. He was over-leveraging properties, treating the whole operation like a Ponzi scheme, flipping houses with balloon mortgages he couldn't cover, making promises to investors he had no intention of keeping. I'd said something at a family dinner about financial responsibility, about sustainable growth versus reckless expansion. Frank had gone cold. Diane had chosen his side immediately. And my mother, she'd just gone quiet, like she always did when conflict arrived. Easier to let me drift away than deal with the tension. By the third Thanksgiving, I'd stopped expecting anything different. I bought myself that rotisserie chicken, poured a beer, and accepted what I'd been avoiding for months. They'd cut me out systematically, deliberately. But here's what they didn't know. 2 months before that third forgotten Thanksgiving, I'd stopped at a 7-Eleven on my way home from work. Bought a lottery ticket on a whim. Megabucks, 6 numbers. Checked it 3 days later while eating leftover pizza. $47 million. I'd stared at that ticket for 10 minutes straight, checking the numbers over and over until my hands shook. Then I'd done exactly what you're supposed to do. I'd called a lawyer. Seth Clarkson specialized in trust and estate law, came highly recommended, and didn't ask stupid questions. Within 2 weeks, we'd set up an anonymous LLC to claim the prize, established a blind trust, moved the money into investments so diversified no one could trace it back to me. I kept working my regular job, kept driving my 8-year-old Honda, kept living in my modest Southeast Portland apartment with the leaky bathroom faucet I still hadn't fixed. I told absolutely no one. And when that third forgotten Thanksgiving came and went without a word from my family, I spent it alone with my rotisserie chicken and my secret, planning a future that didn't include people who forgot I existed. Then December hit. My phone rang on a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks after that third forgotten Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. I was heating up soup, half watching the news, when Diane's name lit up my screen. I stared at it. We hadn't spoken in months, not since that last awkward family dinner where Frank had dominated the conversation and Diane had laughed at all his jokes like he was the most fascinating person alive. The phone kept ringing. I could see her face in my mind. 5 years younger than me, always Mom's favorite, even if no one said it out loud, always the one who got the benefit of the doubt. I let it ring 3 more times before I answered. "Charlie, oh my God, where have you been?" Diane's voice came through, breathless, almost panicked. "We've been trying to reach you." I pulled the phone away from my ear, stared at it for a second, then brought it back. "I've been right here. Same number, same address." "Well, we need to talk. Can you come over this weekend? It's important. Family meeting." My gut tightened. "What's this about?" "Just come over. Saturday afternoon. Mom will be here too." I should have said no, should have hung up right there. But some part of me, the part that still remembered being 19 and helping Mom sort through Dad's things, needed to see where this was going. "Fine. What time?" That Saturday, I pulled up to Diane and Frank's place in West Lynn. The house was exactly what you'd expect from Frank. Oversized, aggressively beige, with a 3-car garage showcasing his car collection like trophies. I sat in my Honda for a minute looking at the perfect lawn, the professionally landscaped flower beds. Everything screamed money they didn't really have. Diane opened the door before I'd finished climbing the front steps. She pulled me into a hug that felt like a business transaction. All performance, no warmth. Come in, everyone's waiting." Inside, Mom sat on an overstuffed leather couch that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She looked smaller than I remembered, diminished somehow. She gave me a weak smile but didn't stand up. Frank stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, face arranged in that fake concerned expression he'd perfected over the years. The whole setup felt staged. "Charlie, sit down," Diane said, gesturing to a chair opposite Mom. "I'm good here." I stayed standing near the doorway. "What's this about?" Frank cleared his throat. "We heard through the grapevine that you've come into some money, a lottery win." The air left my lungs, but I kept my face blank. "Where'd you hear that?" "Does it matter?" Frank's expression didn't change. "The point is, it matters to me," I said. "Who told you?" Diane jumped in, her voice dripping with forced warmth. "Charlie, we're family, and family shares good fortune, right? We've been talking, and we think it's only right that you help us out. Frank's business has hit some rough patches, and Mom's medical bills." "Medical bills?" I turned to Mom. "What medical bills?" Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. "Well, I've had some procedures." "She's fine," I said flatly. "I checked last month, called her doctor's office, pretended to be updating emergency contacts, spoke to the billing department. Medicare and her supplement cover everything. She's paid in full." The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. "You called her doctor?" Diane's voice pitched up. "That's invasive, Charlie." "That's what's invasive is lying about medical debt to squeeze money out of me." I shifted my attention to Frank. "And your business problems? You mean the 3 properties you're underwater on because you over-leveraged during the boom? That's not my problem. That's poor planning." Frank's face reddened. "Now wait just a goddamn minute." "No, you wait." I took a step forward, and something in my voice made him stop. "For 3 years, you people forgot I existed. 3 Thanksgivings, you had family gatherings without me. Didn't call, didn't text, didn't give a single whether I was alive or dead. And now you've heard a rumor about money and suddenly I'm family again?" "Charlie, that's not fair," Mom said weakly. "We were giving you space." "Space?" The word came out harsh. "Mom, I called you 17 times between Thanksgiving and Christmas last year. You answered twice. Both times you said you were busy and would call back. You never did." Diane's expression hardened. "You're being dramatic. We had our reasons for keeping things small, right?
because I'm difficult, because I bring negativity. I looked directly at Frank, because I told people you were running your business like a Ponzi scheme, flipping properties with balloon mortgages you can't cover. How'd that work out for you, Frank? You son of a... Frank started toward me, but I didn't move. Touch me and I'll have you arrested for assault. I'm recording this conversation, by the way. I pulled out my phone, showed them the voice recorder app, every word. So let's be real clear. You want money from me because you think I won the lottery. You have zero proof. You have no relationship with me, and you're threatening and manipulating me to get it. We're not threatening anyone, Diane shrieked. We're your family. You owe us. I owe you? My voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. I owe the people who erased me. I gave you 15 grand for your first house, Diane. Never saw it back. Frank's startup, 20,000. Never got a dime.
Return. Never got a thank you. And when I dared to question Frank's ethics, you cut me out like a tumor. Charlie, please. Mom was crying now, but I was done. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to leave me alone completely. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. You're going to accept that I'm not your ATM, your backup plan, or your family, because you made that decision 3 years ago. I headed for the door, then turned back. And if I hear one word about me or my finances being discussed with anyone outside this room, I will sue all 3 of you for harassment and defamation. Seth Clarkson is my attorney. You can have your lawyer call him. I walked out. Behind me, Frank was yelling, Diane crying, Mom calling my name. I didn't stop. In my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, I watched the McMansion recede in my rearview mirror. Frank's voice still echoed in my head, angry, entitled, desperate. This wasn't over, not even close. 2 weeks of silence followed the blow-up at Diane's place. No calls, no texts. Exactly what I demanded. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt like I was waiting for the next hit. It came on a Tuesday evening. A knock at my door, soft and hesitant. I checked the peephole and my chest tightened. Mom stood in the hallway, looking smaller than I remembered. Frailer, the kind of diminished that makes you forget you're angry, at least for a second. I opened the door. Just to talk, she said quickly. Please, Charlie. Old instincts kicked in. The ones that said you don't turn your mother away even when she's earned it. I stepped aside and let her in. She sat on my couch, hands folded in her lap, looking around my modest living room like she was seeing it for the first time. You really didn't upgrade, she said quietly. If you won money, you haven't spent it. I don't know what you're talking about, Charlie. She looked at me with tired eyes. I'm your mother. I know when you're hiding something. I'm not here to ask for money. I'm here to understand why you hate us so much. The word hit me wrong. Hate you, Mom? I don't hate you. I'm hurt. There's a difference. Then help me understand. Diane says you're being cruel, that we reached out in good faith. Good faith. I sat across from her, something cold settling in my stomach. Mom, do you remember my 40th birthday last May? She hesitated. Of course. What did you do for it? Silence. I spent it alone, I said quietly. Didn't get a card, didn't get a call. Diane was posting photos that same weekend of Frank's surprise party, his 40th. You were there. I saw the pictures. You baked him a cake. Mom's face crumbled. Oh, Charlie, you forgot, didn't you? You actually forgot your son's 40th birthday because you were celebrating your son-in-law's. The old anger rose, but I kept my voice level. So don't tell me I'm the cruel one. Don't tell me you reached out in good faith. You reached out because you want something, and for the first time in my life, I have the power to say no. She tried to respond, started twice, then just sat there with tears rolling down her face. 20 minutes later, she left. I didn't stop her. The next day, a guy in a cheap suit found me in the parking lot at work. Charlie Whitaker? Yeah. He handed me a manila envelope. You've been served. I opened it standing right there, the process server already walking away.
Legal documents, professionally formatted, Frank Moore's name at the top as plaintiff. He was suing me for defamation of character and tortious interference with business relations. The complaint claimed I'd spread false rumors about his business practices, costing him clients and partnerships. He was seeking $500,000 in damages. I called Seth before I even got to my car. "They're desperate," Seth said after I read him the complaint. "This is a slap suit, strategic lawsuit against public participation. They're trying to intimidate you and drain your resources. The good news is Oregon has strong anti-slap protections. We can get this dismissed and make him pay your attorney fees." "Do it," I said, "and Seth, go for the throat." I was hoping you'd say that. Seth filed a motion to dismiss within a week, along with a counterclaim for malicious prosecution. But he also did something else. He started digging into Frank's business. A month passed. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. I tried not to think about the lawsuit, about my family, about any of it. Then Seth called, his voice tight with barely contained excitement. "Charlie, I need your permission to do something. I've uncovered a pattern of misrepresentation to investors, fraudulent property appraisals, and tax irregularities. Frank's not just a bad businessman, he's potentially criminal. I can refer this information to the Oregon Department of Justice Consumer Protection Division. But if I do this, it's war. There's no coming back." I thought about 3 empty Thanksgivings, about my forgotten birthday, about Mom and Diane's McMansion choosing her daughter's husband over her son, about being erased by the people who were supposed to love me. "Do it," I said. Early January, Seth's email hit my inbox at 7 in the morning. DOJ opened formal investigation into Frank Moore. Call me. I called him from my car before heading into work. "It's official," Seth said. "Department of Justice, Consumer Protection Division."
They're looking at investor fraud, fraudulent appraisals, the whole thing. And Charlie, 2 of Frank's investors, filed their own civil suits yesterday. They smelt blood in the water. How bad is it for him? Bad. His business partner, a guy named Travis Holbrook, found out about the investigation, reviewed the books, and dissolved their LLC this morning, issued a public statement distancing himself from Frank's practices. Frank's completely isolated now. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. Keep me posted. Will do. And Charlie, prepare yourself. When cornered animals get desperate, they lash out. He was right. That afternoon, my phone rang. Diane's name. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "You're destroying us." Her voice was raw, hysterical. "Frank might go to prison. We could lose the house. How can you do this to your own family?" "I'm not doing anything," I said calmly. "I'm defending myself against a lawsuit. If Frank broke the law, that's on Frank." "You vindictive son of a—" She was crying now, words choking out between sobs. "You're cruel and you're vindictive, and I hope you choke on your money." There it was, the truth, finally bare and ugly. "That's what this has always been about, hasn't it?" I kept my voice steady. "Not family, money. You don't care that you erased me for 3 years. You don't care that you forgot I existed. You just can't stand that I might have something you want and I won't give it to you." She hung up. I stood there in my apartment, phone still in my hand, and felt nothing, just empty. 3 days later, Mom's voicemail. "Charlie, please stop this. Frank made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve to go to prison. Diane is falling apart. I'm begging you. If you have money, help them. If you don't, at least stop the investigation. Please. I'm your mother. I'm asking you to show mercy." I deleted it without listening to it twice. That night, sitting alone with a beer I wasn't really drinking, I felt the weight of it settle. Not guilt. I was past guilt, but finality. I was severing ties with the only family I had left, choosing myself over them. And despite the pain, it felt right, clean, like lancing an infected wound. You know that moment when you realize you can't save someone who's drowning if they're going to drag you under? That's where I was. I'd spent 20 years being their safety net, their backup plan, their reliable Charlie, and they'd repay me by forgetting I existed until they needed something. I was done. March. The judge dismissed Frank's lawsuit with language so sharp it could have drawn blood, a transparent attempt to harass and intimidate the defendant without legal merit. Frank was ordered to pay my attorney fees, $47,000. Seth had documented every billable hour deliberately.
The DOJ investigation intensified. Subpoenas went out. Assets froze. Frank's real estate empire collapsed like a house of cards. 2 properties went into foreclosure within a week. The bank started proceedings on the McMansion. And in the middle of all that chaos, I met Amy Rodriguez. Seth had referred her, financial advisor, mid-30s, specializing in lottery winners and people who'd come into sudden wealth. We met at a coffee shop in the Pearl District to discuss portfolio diversification. We ended up talking for 3 hours about everything except money. She had dark eyes that saw straight through, a sharp laugh, and zero patience for pretense. "So you're the mystery lottery winner Seth won't shut up about," she said with a slight smile. "He's very protective of you. He's earning his retainer, and your family's giving you hell about it?" I gave her the abbreviated version. She listened without interruption, her expression darkening. "My father did something similar to me," she said quietly. "Didn't speak to me for 5 years after I refused to invest in his restaurant. Then it succeeded, and suddenly he wanted back in my life. I told him no." She met my eyes. "It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but I've never regretted it." Something in my chest loosened. We started seeing each other. Dinners, movies, long walks through Laurelhurst Park. Cherry blossoms were just starting to bloom. That brief window when Portland feels almost magical. "You're acting like someone who doesn't know who they are anymore," Amy said, stopping on the path. "The money doesn't define you, Charlie. Don't let it." "Then what does?" "That's what you need to figure out." She touched my arm. "Who do you want to be? Not who they made you, not the guy getting revenge. Who do you actually want to become?" I didn't have an answer, but for the first time in months, I wanted to find one. April. I walked into my boss's office on a Tuesday morning, resignation letter folded in my jacket pocket. Tom Richards had been my manager for 8 of the 15 years at the firm. Decent guy, fair, never micromanaged. "Got a minute?" I asked. He looked up from his monitor. "Sure, Charlie. What's up?" I handed him the letter. "I'm giving 4 weeks' notice." Tom unfolded it, read it twice, looked up at me like I'd grown a second head. "You're leaving after 15 years?" "Yeah." "You have another offer?" "Your work's been solid, and I appreciate that," I said. "But I have other plans." "Other plans?" He set the letter down. "What kind of plans?" "Personal ones." He studied my face for a long moment, clearly trying to figure out if this was some negotiation tactic. Finally, "Well, okay. We'll miss you, Charlie. You've been an anchor here." An anchor. Funny how that word could mean both stability and weight dragging you down. I spent the next 4 weeks wrapping up projects, training my replacement, a sharp kid named Marcus who asked good questions and didn't need hand-holding, professional to the end. That's who I'd always been. But I wasn't doing it for them anymore. I was doing it for me. Amy helped me figure out what came next. We'd been spending more time together. Dinners that stretched into late-night conversations, walks through the city, moments where I'd catch myself laughing at something she'd said and realize I hadn't felt this light in years. One evening at her apartment, she spread financial projections across her kitchen table. "If you want to make a real impact," she said, "you need structure, not just throwing money at problems." "What kind of impact are we talking about?" She looked at me over the rim of her wineglass. "What matters to you actually matters, not what you think you're supposed to say." I thought about the past year, the isolation, the realization that thousands of people probably went through the same thing, cut off from families, told they were the problem, left to figure it out alone. "People who've been estranged from their families," I said slowly. "The ones who get pushed out for standing up for themselves. Nobody talks about it. Everyone pretends it doesn't happen." Amy's expression softened. "Then that's where you start." We launched the Second Family Foundation in May. $2 million initial funding. I hired a small staff, therapist, legal coordinator, office manager, rented space in a building downtown near Pioneer Square, set everything up through a management company, so my name appeared nowhere. Anonymous benefactor. That's all I was on paper. The research phase had been eye-opening. Turns out family estrangement is common as hell. Something like 1 in 4 adults experiences it at some point, but nobody discusses it openly. The shame attached, like you failed at something fundamental. I wanted to change that. Counseling services for people processing the loss, legal aid for those dealing with inheritance disputes or custody battles, community resources, support groups, workshops, emergency funds for people who'd been financially cut off. We helped people rebuild. And for the first time since Dad died, I felt like I was doing something that mattered. Not just existing, not just being useful to people who didn't appreciate it, actually building something good. Amy and I fell into a rhythm. Thai food on Tuesdays, weekend hikes when the weather cooperated, long conversations about books we'd read, places we wanted to visit, the lives we were building. She knew about the money, but treated me exactly the same. If anything, she called me out when I slipped into lottery winner behavior, like the time I tried to buy us first-class tickets to San Francisco for a weekend trip. "Charlie, no." She'd pulled up the reservation on my laptop and clicked economy. "This is a 90-minute flight. We don't need first class." I know you can afford it. That's not the point." She'd turned to face me. "You're acting like someone who doesn't know who they are anymore. The money doesn't define you. Don't let it." She was right. Somewhere in the chaos of lawsuits and family drama, I'd lost sight of what I actually wanted. Not revenge. I'd achieved that. The DOJ investigation, Frank's crumbling empire, the dismissed lawsuit, that box was checked. Not isolation. That's what my family had given me, and I discovered it was the last thing I needed. I wanted connection, purpose, a life that meant something beyond bank balances and legal victories. Amy was showing me what that could look like. Early May, 3 days before what would have been my 41st birthday, I was making coffee in my apartment, thinking about how different this year felt compared to last, when someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it. Diane stood there, and I almost didn't recognize her. Hair unwashed, greasy at the roots, face drawn, hollowed out like she hadn't slept in weeks. Clothes a stained sweatshirt and jeans hanging off a frame that had lost maybe 20 pounds. She looked terrible. Before I could say anything, she pushed past me into the apartment. "We're losing everything," Diane said, without preamble. Her voice cracked on the last word. "The house, the cars, Frank's business, everything." I stayed by the door, didn't sit, didn't offer her anything. "The DOJ is pressing charges, Charlie. 3 felonies. 3. He could get 15 years. "That's not my problem." "Yes, it is." She whirled on me, eyes wild. "You did this. You destroyed him. You destroyed us." I kept my voice level. "Frank destroyed himself. I defended myself against his lawsuit. That's all. Everyone knows now." Her hands were shaking. "About
The lottery. The commission confirmed a Portland area winner last year. The timeline matches. It was you. We know it was you. So it was out. Fine. You can pay for lawyers." She pressed for restitution, for whatever Frank needs to make this right. "You have the money, Charlie. You can fix this. Diane, get out." She flinched, like I'd hit her. Then her expression changed. Calculated, manipulative, the look she'd always used when she wanted something. "He's going to kill himself," she said quietly. "Frank told me last night. He has a gun, Charlie. He's going to kill himself, and it'll be your fault." The words hung there, heavy, ugly. I pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" Panic crept into her voice. "Calling 911. If Frank is suicidal, he needs professional help. Not money, not me. Help." She slapped the phone out of my hand. It hit the floor hard. Screen cracked straight across the middle. I bent down, picked it up slowly, looked at the damage, then looked at her. "You just committed assault and destruction of property," I said quietly. "Leave now, or I call the police for that instead of a welfare check." She stared at me, chest heaving. For a second, I thought she might actually attack me. Then something broke. She collapsed onto my couch, sobbing. Not pretty crying, raw, ugly, desperate sounds. "I don't know what to do," she gasped between sobs. "Everything's falling apart. Mom's a wreck. Frank's talking about prison. The kids are terrified." She looked up at me with red eyes. "And you just sit here in your shitty apartment pretending you don't have $47 million? I went very still. "How do you know that number?" I asked quietly. She froze. "Diane, how do you know that exact number? The Lottery Commission had released info about a winner, but not the amount. That was kept private, confidential. How do you know it's 47 million? Her face went pale. Someone told me." "Who?" "Frank talked to someone at the Lottery Commission. A clerk. They said they illegally accessed confidential records." My voice stayed dead calm.
That's a felony. Federal, probably, if it crossed any privacy laws. I stepped closer. Did Frank pay this person? She wouldn't answer. Couldn't meet my eyes. I walked to the door, opened it. Get out, I said, now, and tell Frank if he contacts me, threatens me, or comes near me, I'm documenting everything for the police. Tell him he's got bigger problems than his pride. She stood slowly, wiping her face with her sleeve. Diane! I waited until she looked at me. We're not family anymore. You made that choice 3 years ago. I'm just accepting it now. She left, still crying. I watched her walk down the hall, shoulders shaking. Then I closed the door and called Seth. He answered on the second ring. I told him everything. The suicide threat, the slapped phone, the $47 million number. Seth was quiet for a long moment. This is good, he finally said. Not morally good, but legally good. If they illegally accessed your lottery records, that's ammunition if they try anything else. Document everything. And, Seth, consider a restraining order. Already ahead of you, I said. We talked for another 20 minutes about next steps. When I hung up, I realized I'd been standing in the same spot the whole time. I sat down on the couch where Diane had been, stared at the wall, felt nothing. Not triumph, not guilt, just exhausted, hollowed out. That night, Amy showed up with takeout. She took one look at my face and set the bags on the counter. What happened? I told her, all of it. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. You did the right thing, she finally said. With Diane, with Frank, all of it. But Charlie, she sat next to me. When does it end? When do you get to stop fighting and start living? June. The notification came through Seth's office on a Tuesday morning. Frank Moore had accepted a plea deal. 3 years in prison, restitution to defrauded investors, permanent prohibition from real estate licensing in Oregon. Seth called me with the details. The DOJ had him dead to rights. His attorney convinced him that going to trial would mean a decade minimum. Frank took the deal. Okay, I said. Felt nothing. Seth, this is over. Frank's done. He can't touch you. Yeah. We hung up. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee going cold, trying to feel something. Relief, maybe? Satisfaction? Nothing came. My phone rang 20 minutes later. Diane's name. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. I hope you're happy. Her voice was flat, dead. You destroyed him. You destroyed our family. Diane, Mom won't even speak to me anymore. She thinks I drove you away. Everything is gone, Charlie. The house, Frank's business, our savings, everything. And you just get to walk away rich and free. I took a breath. I'm sorry you're hurting. I mean that. But I didn't do this to you. You and Frank did it to yourselves. I just refused to be your victim. We were your family. No, I cut her off. Family doesn't forget you exist until they need something. Family doesn't sue you for defending yourself. Family doesn't manipulate and lie and threaten. You were related to me by blood, Diane, but you stopped being family a long time ago. Silence. Then the line went dead. I blocked her number, stared at my phone for a long moment. Then I got up and went to work at the foundation office. 2 weeks passed. The days settled into routine. Foundation work, dinners with Amy, quiet evenings reading. Then the letter arrived. Handwritten envelope.
Mother's shaky script on the front. 3 pages unfolded carefully. I almost threw it away. Stood over my trash can, envelope in hand. But I opened it. Charlie, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I understand now what we did to you, how we failed you. Not just the Thanksgivings, though those were unforgivable, but all the years before when I chose peace over standing up for you, when I let Diane and Frank push you out because it was easier than dealing with conflict. Your father would be ashamed of me. He always said you were the strong one, the one who'd stand up when it mattered. I should have been more like you. I'm not asking for your money. I'm not asking for anything except that you know I'm sorry and that I'm proud of you for not letting us drag you down. Love, Mom. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it, put it in my desk drawer, and closed it. Didn't respond. Couldn't find the words. But something shifted.
The anger that had been burning hot for months cooled. Not forgiveness. I wasn't there yet. Maybe never would be. But acceptance. They'd made their choices. I'd made mine. And I could live with the consequences. Late June. The Facebook post went up on a Thursday afternoon. I didn't see it at first. Amy did. She called me, voice tight. "Don't look at social media. Just don't." Of course I looked. Diane's post was long, rambling, detailed. "My brother won $47 million in the lottery and abandoned his family in our darkest hour, while my husband faces prison for mistakes he's trying to fix. While my children cry themselves to sleep asking why Uncle Charlie hates us, he sits on his fortune and watches us suffer. He used his money to destroy Frank's business, to tear our family apart, to turn our mother against me. The lottery didn't make him rich, it turned him into a monster." It went viral within 48 hours. Reporters started calling. My phone rang non-stop with numbers I didn't recognize. Distant cousins I hadn't spoken to in years sent messages. Strangers emailed hate mail to an address they'd somehow found. A TV crew set up outside my apartment building, cameras rolling every time someone came or went. Seth filed a cease and desist immediately, then a defamation lawsuit. "But the damage is done," he said grimly. "Your name is public now. The win is public. We can make your pay for lying, but we can't put this back in the bottle." I stayed inside, curtains drawn, phone off. For 3 days, I sat in the dark and let the world rage outside. Then Amy showed up. She had a key, let herself in, found me on the couch staring at nothing. "You can't hide," she said gently. "Not from this. So you have 2 choices. Let them control the narrative or take it back." "How?" My voice felt rusty. "Diane painted me as the villain. Everyone's eating it up. The evil lottery winner who abandoned his family." "Then tell your story, the real one." "I never wanted to be public about this." "I know," she sat next to me, "but you're public now whether you want to be or not, so make it count." 3 days later, I sat across from Julia Harris in a conference room at the Oregonian's offices. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, recorder on the table between us. "Why come forward now?" she asked. I took a breath. "Because my sister made this public. She weaponized my privacy and painted me as the villain. But the truth is different, and I think it's time people heard it." She nodded, clicked the recorder on. "Tell me everything." So I did. I started with the Thanksgivings. 3 years in a row, I said, looking directly at Julia Harris across the small table. No invitation, no explanation, just silence. She was taking notes by hand, even though her recorder was running. Professional, thorough. The first year my mother called 2 days before, said they were keeping it small, but I was immediate family. The second year, no call at all. I found out through Facebook, saw the photos of everyone gathered without me. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots I'd saved. My mother, Diane, Frank, the kids around that massive spread. And the third year, I stopped expecting anything. I scrolled to another screenshot. But here's what makes it interesting. That same week I didn't get invited to Thanksgiving, I won $47 million. Her pen stopped moving. "And you didn't tell them? Didn't tell anyone?" "I hired Seth Clarkson, set up an anonymous LLC, established a blind trust, kept working my regular job, kept living in my apartment. I just waited for what? To see if they'd remember I existed without needing something from me?" I pulled up text messages. These are from December through February that year. 17 calls to my mother. She answered twice, both times said she'd call back. Never did. Julia leaned forward, studying the timestamps. Then in May, my 40th birthday came around. I showed her more photos. That weekend, my mother was at Frank's surprise party, his 40th. She baked him a cake. Forgot mine completely. That must have... Then December rolls around again, and suddenly my phone's ringing. Diane, breathless, saying they need to talk. Family meeting. I laughed, harsh. They'd heard rumors about the lottery. That's all it took. I walked her through the ambush at the McMansion, Frank's lawsuit, the illegal access to my lottery records, Diane's suicide threat, manipulation. For everything, I had documentation.
Unanswered texts, legal filings, the timeline laid out clean and undeniable. "Why come forward now?" Julia asked. "Because Diane made this public. She weaponized my privacy, painted me as a monster on Facebook, and that post went viral. So people deserve the truth." I met her eyes. I spent 20 years being there for people who only valued me when I was useful. The lottery didn't change who I am. It gave me the financial freedom to finally say no. The article ran Sunday morning. Front page above the fold. "Lottery winner breaks silence on family estrangement. I refuse to be their ATM." My phone exploded. But this time, most of it was support. Thousands of comments online, people sharing their own stories, parents who'd cut them off, siblings who'd used them, families who'd only called when they needed money. "Thank you for speaking up. This happened to me, and I thought I was crazy. You're not the villain. You're a survivor." Local TV picked it up by Monday, national news by Wednesday. Interview requests flooded in. Morning shows, podcasts, magazines. I declined almost everything. But there was one podcast, Estranged and OK, focused specifically on family estrangement and recovery. That one I said yes to. I didn't use video, just my voice. And I talked about the Second Family Foundation. Didn't reveal my involvement, just highlighted their work. Therapy services, legal assistance, emergency housing funds, support for people cut off from toxic families who needed to hear they weren't alone. That choosing yourself over people who hurt you isn't selfish, it's survival. Donations poured in. The foundation's operating budget tripled in a month. People reached out directly. Adults who'd been estranged from abusive parents, manipulative siblings, families who only valued them as ATMs. They'd found support through the foundation. They just wanted to say thank you. And I realized the money was finally doing what it was meant to do. August. Frank went to prison. 3 years, like the plea deal promised. Diane moved into a small rental with the kids. The McMansion was long gone, swallowed by foreclosure. My mother sent a brief email. She'd sold her house, moved into a senior living community. Not because she had to, financially, but because she couldn't stand being surrounded by memories of the family she'd helped break. I read it twice. Didn't respond, but didn't block her either. September. Amy and I moved in together. Not some mansion, a comfortable house in southeast Portland with a yard for the garden she wanted to start. I still drove my Honda, still shopped at the same Fred Meyer. The money was there, growing, working, but it wasn't defining me anymore. The Second Family Foundation opened a second office in Eugene, then a third in Salem. Hundreds of people helped annually. Therapy, legal assistance, emergency funds. I attended board meetings via video. Face off screen. The minutes always listed me the same way, anonymous benefactor. And I was happy, genuinely, deeply happy, in a way I'd never been when I was bending myself into shapes trying to please people who didn't value me. November. 4 years, almost to the day, since that first forgotten Thanksgiving. I walked to the mailbox after work, Amy beside me. Mixed in with the bills and junk mail, one envelope stood out. Handwritten address. Diane's writing. My chest tightened. "You gonna open it?" Amy asked quietly. I looked at her, then at the envelope. Standing right there at the mailbox, I tore it open. Amy read over my shoulder. "Charlie, I owe you an apology I'll never be able to fully make. You were right about everything. Frank was the problem. I was the problem. We used you, excluded you, then tried to manipulate you when you had something we wanted. I'm in therapy now. The kids are in therapy. We're working through what we did and why. My therapist helped me see that I spent my entire adult life prioritizing Frank's needs over everyone else, including my own brother. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a relationship, but I need you to know that I see it now, all of it, and I'm sorry. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Diane." I read it twice, folded it carefully, put it in my pocket. "Are you going to respond?" Amy asked quietly.
I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks silence is the answer she's earned. Amy slipped her hand into mine. There's no wrong choice. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. A week later, I wrote back, one paragraph. Diane, I appreciate your apology. I can't tell you if I'll ever be ready to have you back in my life. That's something I'll have to figure out over time, but I acknowledge that you're doing the work, and that matters. I hope therapy helps you and the kids. Take care of yourselves. Charlie. I sent it. Then I moved forward. Christmas that year. Different. Completely different. Amy and I hosted dinner for 12 people. Not family by blood, but family by choice. Staff from the Second Family Foundation came. Seth Clarkson and his husband, Marcus. People I'd made over the past year. People who knew me as Charlie, not that lottery winner. We cooked together, laughed together, toasted to new beginnings. And when I looked around that table, watching people talk and actually be with each other, I realized this was what I'd been missing all along. Not people who wanted something from me, people who wanted to be with me. 2 years later, Frank got out of prison 4 months ago. Works construction now, lives in a halfway house, isn't allowed to practice real estate for the rest of his life. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he's broke, bitter, blaming everyone but himself. I felt nothing about it. Not satisfaction, not pity, just indifference. Diane and I exchange emails every few months, surface-level stuff. She tells me about the kids' school activities. I tell her about foundation work without revealing my role. We're not rebuilding a relationship. We're acknowledging one existed and died, and we're both mourning it in our own ways. Maybe someday there'll be more. Maybe not. My mother passed away last spring. Heart attack. Sudden and quick. She'd been reaching out more in her final year. Small emails, birthday cards, apologies. I never fully reconciled with her, but I made peace with it. I attended her funeral, sat in the back, left before anyone could approach me. The Second Family Foundation is thriving. Over 3,000 people helped in the past 2 years. 6 offices now, spread across Oregon and Washington. I'm still anonymous, still operating from the shadows. That's how I want it. Amy and I got married last October. Small ceremony, close friends only. Seth officiated, which felt right. He'd been there from the beginning, protecting me when I needed it most. We honeymooned in Portugal. 3 weeks of incredible food, beautiful scenery, and not checking our phones once. It was perfect. The money's still there, growing, working, funding the foundation and securing our future, but it's not what defines me anymore. I'm not the lottery winner who cut off his family. I run a foundation that helps people. I have a wife I love. I have a life I built on my own terms. And the people who forgot me, they're living with the consequences of their choices, just like I'm living with the rewards of mine. You can't go back and fix the past. You can only acknowledge it, learn from it, and build something better going forward. My family thought they could use me, discard me, then reclaim me when it suited them. They learned the hard way that people aren't possessions. Loyalty isn't automatic, and family, real family, is built on respect, not blood. Christmas evening, 2 years after the wedding. Snow fell outside our living room window in soft, quiet flakes. I sat on the couch with Amy, her hand in mine. The Second Family Foundation's latest impact report on the coffee table. 4,000 families helped. 4,000 people who'd been cut off, discarded, forgotten, who'd found support and community and the strength to build new lives. Amy squeezed my hand. "You did that?" she said softly. "We did that," I corrected. She smiled, rested her head on my shoulder. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, everything was warm and quiet and right. And for the first time in my life, I felt complete peace.